Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to day 3 of a week worth of tarot readings and stories from me, Star and Flurry. What is wrong with my forehead? Now that I've rubbed it, it's going to be redder. I don't know what's. Oh, you know what it was? Is I was out this morning, out in the sunshine for a little while because sometimes it's good to get some vitamin D naturally, and that's what I did. And now I'm feeling the effects of a slight sunburn, I think. I was not there that long, like 10, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, but I haven't been out at all, so highly susceptible. So I wanted to start out today because for some reason I was reminded of a poem that I downloaded or got from somebody. I don't even know where I heard it from, but it's just my favorite ever poem. And it's by a woman named Sally Helmet. I believe she's passed on. And this was posted, I think, on like an Instagram feed of someone as a kind of a memorial to her, I think. If she's alive, God bless you. But if you're not, rest in peace. But it's called Order on the Phone to a Large Department Store. And I'm going to put it here, so in case you want to screenshot it and make a note, if you like it as much as I did. So there's the poem, and you can just stop and screenshot it, and it's by Sally Helmet, Heilmut. And it reads, "Could I order an explosion, please? As large as they come and quite fantastic. Would you make it out to my account? I want it now, to collect, not posted. It has to happen immediately, at once, or the whole thing's wasted. And when I see it for the price they charge, I want it large, with fantastic colors shooting out of the flames, and the loudest bang of all bangs. No one will be hurt, just shaken and astonished, not shocked in the medical sense, just jolted hard, so that life takes a different angle and a totally new, refreshing direction. After all, it will be a huge explosion." I don't know why that just spoke to me when I first read it, and I just love it. It's just, I don't know, for some reason it gets me smiling. It just makes me smile. So I wanted to share that today with you. And one thing I keep forgetting to do is share the fragrance of the day is Kay Ali's Sweet Diamond Pink Pepper. Oh, it's so good. I just re-spritzed it, and it's, I don't even know how to describe it. It turns out I love pepper, any kind of pink pepper in pretty much any kind of fragrance is not it. As long as it's not heavily laden with rose. And this is one of those. So Kay Ali, Kayali. They have a great discovery set, by the way. So if you go onto their website, order the discovery set, and I think it's really reasonable. And then you get, I think, 8 of their perfumes. And their vanilla, is it vanilla? Is to die for. It's a beautiful wintry beautiful fragrance for the winter. This pink pepper one kind of springtime, summertime, I think. Others may differ. A lot of people think pepper belongs in the fall and winter, but I just love it. I love it any time of day, so there's that. Okay, so we're starting. Let's see. So today we're going to use the Barrow Tarot. I don't know if I've used this before, but I got this the other day. It's one of those, I don't think I have, actually. I made the mistake of trolling on Etsy. Yeah, and this tarot deck came up. This is the backs. And I'll show the box again. It's called the Barrow deck. 78 card tarot deck designed by Claire Weber. Available on Etsy. It's just as cute as the day is long. And we're going to start with, do I want to do that or do I want to do that? What do I want to do? I think we're going to start with the, I was going to start with the story cards, but I think rather I'm going to start with, for some reason, Runners of the Sun is calling to me because, oh my God, it's another gorgeous day here in Central Oregon, and I can't get enough of it. We had just the longest winter. Normally winter here starts in like January, and then it kind of eases up in May. But this year, it started literally in October, and it was just cold from October straight through. I wish I'd printed that out. We have 8 seasons here in Central Oregon. And you know, it's like first winter, fall, spring, second winter, fall, second spring, third winter, and then the pollinating, and that's occurring right now. So bear with my runny nose. So I'm going to bring this down. Hello, hello. Oh, do I have my... Oh, gosh, what did I do with it? I need my... Here I thought I'd gathered everything, and I haven't. I need my... Be right back. I need my story prompt book. I can't function without it. I can't come up with these things on my own. So again, using the Dark Skeleton Workbook guidebook, I absolutely adore it, and I love the prompts. I've never paid much attention to guidebooks. Well, that much guidebooks, and a lot of guidebooks have prompts, and I just am, you know, not. I just haven't looked at it, but now I do. Okay, so there's one shuffle. So we're starting out with protected. Get these straight. Strength. And love. Aw. Cool. So I'll put this back in there. I have not been using the guidebook on these. And I'm not going to start today. So these go on long enough. I don't need to add that to it. I think those are pretty clear. Protected, strength, and love. Now we're going to shuffle the Barrow Tarot. And this is just, it's one of these decks that I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to shuffle this. But it turns out I can shuffle it. So I'm very excited about that. That's really cute deck, and you'll see it here in a second. Oops. Blowout. A frequent Nancy occurrence here. Get in here. Okay, we'll do one more and then we'll be done. I've left myself enough room here. Okay. Let's give it a cut. And our 3 under protected, we have the 3 of Wands. Can you see the bear? I don't know. He's just looking over the ocean to the boats. Protected, 3 of Wands. Interesting. 2 of Pentacles. Under strength. And under love, oh, look at that, the 2 of Cups. The love card. Very symbiotic pull today. Isn't that interesting? I love it. So let's take a look at the guidebook and see what we got going on. 3 of Wands. So, meaning the push is clear. You need to invest your time and energy to succeed. Adventure, optimism, movement. Moving forward after the dominion aspect of the 2 of Wands, you want to get to the 3 of Wands. Author's personal connection. I connect this card to the middle of my college experience with a couple of years under my belt. I often wondered what I would do after college and where I would go in the world. It was not the 2 of Wands which I associated with going to college, but rather this card represented the time building the skills I wanted to eventually take out into the world. Okay. The writing prompt is, when did you realize you were between worlds? What were you contemplating as your next move? That's interesting. And I mean, the easy answer, simple answer for me is just when I had decided to quit my job and start kind of being companion and caregiver to my dad. It was, and And I was definitely between worlds because it was more that I would be available. It wasn't so much that I would move in with him. I'm trying to remember how this story came together. I frequently have to look. I did actually finally note it on my calendar because it was a confusing, which speaks to the between worlds, a confusing period in my life. But I quit my job in June of 2015 and didn't move down to Portland right away. I kind of hung out and just kind of breathed and it, experiencing a life that didn't revolve around somebody else's schedule and telling me what to do. And that's an adjustment. It's a big adjustment, and some people go, "Oh, I can't wait," but it's a weird adjustment. I guess is the only real way I can describe it. I'll pull these down a little bit further so you can see that. Can you see the cards? Oh, anyways, yeah. So I hung out there, and then that may be confusing my holidays, but we went down for Thanksgiving and went down to Los Angeles to visit my brother and his wife and to have Thanksgiving there. And I may be blending stories, so if I am, or not stories, I may be blending timelines, but it happens when you get beyond 60. Anyways, so we go down for Thanksgiving, and then we're getting ready. We drove down. We rented a car and drove down, which was really fun. And then we decided to. I think that's right. Okay. I think I got my stories right. And we decided to take the Coast Starlight back, the train ride back. Dad loved a good train ride, and so did I. No, it was fine. So we're getting ready to leave that morning. The train leaves at from Union Station in LA. I think at 10:20. I don't know why I remember that, but 10:20. So it's probably like 9, and they don't live far from the station. Pardon me. So we're kind of dicking around. I remember being in the kitchen with my sister-in-law, and my dad was in his room packing. And I think I was already packed and ready to go. And all of a sudden, we hear this crash. I mean, huge, like body down crash. And Margie and I looked at each other with this look like life just changed. We knew something drastic had just occurred. And so it took us a moment to kind of, get our crap together, because it's like, what, Phil, Dad? So we go running from the kitchen into Dad's room, and he's on the floor, completely pushed in the kind of doors of the closet in that room, kind of head up against it. So between Margie and I, we literally picked him up on each side and set him down on a chair, and he was just stunned. And I think I said to Margie, we need to get some Advil in him right now, and she agreed. We didn't. He was intact. There was nothing broken that we could tell. His wrists were fine. His legs were fine. He was moving. He had, we put him through the quick, stroke test. He was fine in that regard, and he was feeling. He said that he really wasn't in any pain. He was fine. But he was shocked. And it was, what had happened was he had his suitcase. How did this work? Suitcase up on like the counter, and was going to pull it off the counter to put it on the ground. It was heavy. So he gave it a good jerk. And for some reason, whether he hadn't zipped it or something, everything kind of came out of the suitcase. And he just went flying. It just sent him flying onto the floor, sliding across the floor and into these closet doors. So we got him together, and we all I kind of said, at that point, I said, Dad, are you sure you can get on a train? Because we're talking 30 some hours of, this. Trains are jiggly. And he said, no, I'm fine. And famous last words. And so we get on the train. He walks to the train. Everything's fine. We get on the train, and he had a room, and I had a room. I think we traveled together before when we were together, and we agreed while we were fine. We agreed that if we did that again, we'd get separate rooms, and so we did that. So he had a room and I had a room, and I kept checking on him. But by the time the lunch rolled around, which was maybe 2.5, 3 hours, we finally figured out that he had that the adrenaline that had no doubt been pulsing through him shortly after that fall had waned. And suddenly everything that may have been affected he started to feel. And I could tell he was in a severe amount of pain, but I couldn't quite figure out what. And he was not being very forthcoming. Again, I think here's a man who just doesn't want to complain. He doesn't want to put any burdens on anybody, and he's just kind of like, I'm fine, but give me some more Advil or give me some more aspirin or whatever. So we did that, and we lasted for about 12 hours, and then there was a point at which we just knew that it was really a problem. And but we decided that probably the best foot forward was rather than getting off in some town we were completely unfamiliar with, to go to an urgent care. That it was, if he could suck it up, let's get to Portland. And then we can go to his regular physician. But so we decided to do that. But oh my God, he was just, I just felt so bad. He was in so much pain in his back. And that's when I started to figure out that something was probably seriously wrong. So we got him off the train, and I was supposed to let him off in Portland and go the rest of the way to Seattle. But I got off in Portland with him, and I never left. I mean, that was the between worlds decision maker, that I was in Portland to stay. And which was weird because I packed for a short trip to LA. I ended up finally having to take I think I just did a turnaround, run up to Seattle, turn around, and came back in one day with kind of more of my things. But we went to, first we go to some urgent care that won't take him because he's freaking on Medicare. And then the guy's 80 something years old. How old was he? This is 2015. He was born in 24. So what, 91? Could that be right? I don't have my... Anyways, late 80s. And they wouldn't take him because of Medicare. The guy is in so much pain. And we're traveling around, because I don't have a car there. So we're traveling around in a cab, literally from the train. So we finally get to an urgent care kind of near his house. And I walked in and I just said, you have to see my father. I'll pay cash. They go, well, is he on insurance? And I go, he is, but let's not even talk about that. I don't want to be turned away. And the guy says they actually did accept Medicare. So thank God. So we went in and he said, I think he's torn some ligaments or done whatever to his back, but it doesn't appear that anything's broken or anything. So I'm going to give him some muscle relaxers. And I was like, this. So he took them and they did nothing. And so fortunately, we called his main physician the next morning, and usually they're like a month wait. But I told them what happened. They said they'd get him in right away. So we went down that morning, and they ended up doing x-rays and found out that he had 2 fractures in his neck. I mean, not enough to, he didn't need a splint or anything like that, but these were just, was it in his neck or in his lower back? I can't remember, but somewhere in there. And the doctor basically said, here's the deal. First of all, he gave him, what's the drug that's so bad right now? The Oxycontin or oxycodone. Gave him I think it was oxycodone. He prescribed him that and then said, here's the deal, Phil. You're going to be in pain for a while. And if you're lucky, it will subside over time. And if you're not lucky, it won't. I'm just being straight up honest. I really like this doctor. And I was like, well, that's not fun to hear, but whatever. Dad appreciated the honesty. We ended up switching physicians at that point, too, because Dad had a different physician who just happened to be there. And so they got him in with somebody else, and we just immediately liked him a whole ton better. And so we switched. So we asked, are you taking on new clients? And he says, yes. And so we ended up switching to him, which didn't last for that long, but nonetheless, because that doctor moved on, sadly. But He was great with Dad. And so we got home. And of course, Dad is scared to death to take the pain medication. Scared to death. He's just immediately, he's convinced he's going to become addicted immediately. So I said, look, Dad. And the problem was he hadn't slept the entire time we were on the train. So that's at least 24 hours. I think the whole trip was 28, 29 hours, something like that. Maybe 30, I can't remember. So he hadn't slept at all. And then add in one more day we were in Portland before we got these drugs and all that. And he just wasn't sleeping. I said, Dad, you need to sleep. So what if you just take a half of a, I called the doctor. I said, is a half a tab okay? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm not sure it'll do much for him. But yeah, that if he's not willing to take the whole thing, half is fine. So we ended up giving half. And it knocked him out about the time he swallowed it. I mean, he was just gone. He was gone. And I didn't even take him to bed. He was in his, like, we have one of those recliner chairs, that helps lift you up. Kind of, you press a button and it goes, lifts you up. We'd actually gotten it for my mom, and Dad was going to get rid of it after she died. And I said, let's hang on to it. So he did, and thank God, because it came in so handy. But he, so he was in his chair, and I just went over and he had a little remote control thing, and I just laid him out a little more flatter than, it didn't go completely flat, but a lot flatter than what it was, and put a blanket on him, and he was out cold for, let's see, what time did that happen? That was probably 11 in the morning, and I don't think he moved the entire day or night. He just slept straight through. And then when he woke up, he was like a new person, because I think that was his biggest thing, was he just needed some sleep. And that was the last time he took the pain medication. He took that half tab, and that was it. In fact, I still have the bottle up in my medicine cabinet, because those things are valuable. They're probably totally expired now, but I thought, you never know. If the economy tanks, I've got a little safe deposit box up in my medicine cabinet. Fresh Oxycontin, hitting the streets with it. Anyways, I would never do that, but anyways, and so so it was a very long recovery. But that was my between worlds, where I just knew when I got off that train in Portland that my world and life had just changed. And the good news is that Dad was one of the lucky ones. He really started to feel better. It was weeks, but he finally started to feel like just that he could sleep at night. That was the biggest thing. Nothing heals unless you give it rest. And so that was, thankfully, he was able to do that, and actually ended up, once kind of got over it, well, I was going to say probably 3 months or so, where he was finally almost back to normal. But you could tell, every once in a while he'd move, and you could tell it tweaked him a little bit. But that's my between world story, that for sure. That was crazy. Okay, Two of Pentacles. Moving on. Try to keep the next, if I have two stories, I'll try to keep them a little shorter. And that one, Two of Pentacles. Time to experiment and try different actions to get better results. Adaptability and activity under strength. I'm just connecting this protected, almost as if he was, I'm just so thankful I was with him when that happened, and was able to not have to wangle going back to work. I mean, the timing on it was pretty spectacular, I gotta say. So, because if I'd still been working, that would have been the end of it immediately. And I'm glad that I was able to end my job on my terms rather than on an emergency, which was really, really nice. I'm not blaming Dad at all. I'm just saying that I'm glad I had quit before and was free to be able to make that choice to be with him. Okay, author's personal connection to the Two of Pentacles is, I am quite familiar with the changing nature of life. I have moved from one residence to another over 30 times in my life. I think we've read this one before. I moved every year I was in grade school when my father started his home building business. Yep, as a general contractor, we lived in the houses he built. However, the ones we lived in were his newest spec houses, were often for sale at the same time. As it happened more than once, the one we were living in sold first. I started joking that I would buy items thinking about how easily I could pack them for a next move. Oh, that's tough. Write about a time in your life when you needed to make a practical change due to new circumstances. Well, I mean, I think, that just goes right into the story I just told, which was it was a practical change. I mean, at that point, due to no circumstances, I had to move to Portland. There was just no getting around that. And so I did. And I'm so thankful that I was free to be able to make that choice. I'm just so thankful. Because it just could have been, it could have been such a horrible nightmare. And while it was a horrible nightmare, it was a manageable nightmare. It was one we could power through. Strength. On his part and on mine, I think. So that's all kind of combined right there. And then the next is the Two of Cups. Two of Cups. Enjoy a mutual attraction and shared positive feelings with someone. Upright. Attraction and connection. Well, as I mentioned frequently, I don't have a partner nor a romantic interest at this time. I will always be open to it, but I am not actively seeking it because I'm so, what's that line from, I remember in, is it Sleepless in Seattle? Where they have that brief chat about how no woman over 40 will ever get married, and the assumption is that it's because she's, too old. And I'm thinking, well, no, it's because she's, after 40, if she remains on, she's figured it out. She's got her own life, and she likes it. I'm that person. So author's personal connection with this card. The dance of courtship and flirting. That is the energy of this card. I have been fortunate to have numerous dating and flirting opportunities. Hopefully you have as well. I can remember the first months dating my daughter's mother and how much fun it was to connect and get to know each other. This card always reflects a budding relationship, a time when we share our emotional selves with someone in an intimate way. That's the children going by on their bikes again, if you heard that screaming. Let me read that again. This card always reflects a budding relationship, a time when we share our emotional selves with someone in an intimate way. So the writing prompt is, who did you court, or who courted you? Oh, that's reaching back into some memories. I had I think I mentioned before, I had three really, I've had really great loves in my life. I've been so thankful to have those experiences. And three in particular where we actually lived together for 4 years each. 4 years seems to be my threshold, I guess. But one of them was a guy who I met at work, who we absolutely had similar senses of humor and just the same kind of look at life and the same look at our business. And I think we courted each other. I don't think it was ever one-sided. And I can't think of actually any relationship that I've had that felt one-sided in that respect. Can you tell I'm a little uncomfortable in this subject? I'm not well versed in it, but obviously, I mean, it was when I was younger and naive. But I think I found out a long time ago that I'm not very good at picking mates, beaux, who are good for me. And I don't mean that they're terrible, just that for some reason the balance is always kind of off. And the other thing is that I'm one of these people who tends to, I'm a people doer. That's why I lasted so long in the business I was in. I like pleasing. I'm a caretaker. I like pleasing people, and when you're in a young relationship, I could see myself molding myself to what they were. And then at some point I would tire of that and kind of come out of the little cult I'd arranged around myself to become them, and realize that not only did I not like that, I resented them for it, even though it was totally me that did it. And then that's the end of the relationship. And so, it's just something I tend to do, and I never quite found a way out of that. And I think the last relationship I had just brought that in spades to me, and I was like, you know what? And I'm one of those people for a long period of time. I've always been happy by myself. I've never ever felt like I needed a relationship to be complete. And I just didn't listen to that feeling in myself early on. And it wasn't until I was probably in my mid 40s that I was finally like, you know what? I'm okay with this. I'm okay not having a partner. In fact, I'm better off not having a partner, I think. It's just, it's my life and emotional sense and security and everything that it is about life moves more smoothly for me when I'm not having to bring another person into it. And that's just the reality. And, I've had friends say, well, that sounds kind of selfish. And I'm like, well, yeah, so what's the problem with that? Now that self-care is all the rage, nobody says a word. But back then it was like, no, you got to sacrifice for your partner or a partner. I'm like, no, I don't think you do. I don't think you should. I don't think that's success. And in my opinion. Now, and I will tell you that every single beau except for one, two, I remained good friends with. So it was just like the relationship had run its course. And this one that I talked about earlier where we met at work, he was one who at the end, I mean, he was seeing somebody else. I had a wandering eye as well. And we kind of knew that about each other. But we were best friends. And we were, I'll call him Steve, for lack of a better, I don't want to name him here. But, so we were this Steve and Nancy show. That's what people knew us as. We had been together for 4 years. We were the Steve and Nancy show. And we were very funny. We had a little patter that we could do. I mean, we were just a couple. We'd been a couple for a really long time. More so than probably any other guy I'd ever dated. And so we're sitting in the living room one day, and he looked up and he goes, so are we done? And I was like, oh God, yes, I think we are. And I was here to put this up. I could have done with that reading. So I said, yes, we are. I think we are. And he goes, okay. So, and then we just looked at each other and said, what are we going to tell everybody? Because we didn't want there to be sides. There was nothing, nobody had hurt, we hadn't hurt each other. We just kind of, the relationship, took its path, and then that path diverged, and we were fine with that. And we'd had such a great time. I don't regret one moment of time I spent with him. I still quote him today. I use phrases that we shared, but that couples share, you kind of, that make you laugh. I still use those today. So he was a very prominent feature in my budding romantic life. But anyways, yeah, we're done. And our biggest concern was, what are we going to tell everybody? Because we just didn't want them to have to take sides. We didn't want any sympathies. We didn't want anybody to freak out. And so slowly but surely word got around, and actually in the long run, went pretty smoothly. So then like 2 months later, he comes home and he says, I'm getting married. And I'm like, what? He's getting married to this woman and that he'd met at one of his jobs. And I was like, okay. And I said, well, so when? So he gave me the date and okay, fine. And he goes, you're coming, right? I go, of course. And then I said, who's catering it? He was going to be down at this restaurant in Portland. And I said, who's catering? He goes, well, we'll call her Mary. So Steve and Mary were getting married, and I said, who's going to cater it? He goes, well, we're just going to do the food. And I go, and no, you're not. And he goes, well, yes, we are, and we can't afford anything else. And I said, no, you're not. Stop it. You're not doing that. So I ended up catering his wedding. I mean, they bought the food and everything, but I ended up putting it all together, taking it down, putting the whole restaurant together for the reception and the whole 9 yards. And I had met his family. He had a great family. And so, of course, when they came out for the wedding, they were from the East Coast. They came out for the wedding. And they didn't know about the bride from Adam, but they knew me pretty well because I'd been with him the last, 4 years up until the last, 3 months. And it's so I was kind of wandering around like I didn't know what to do. And so his dad, no, his brother, actually his brother's wife, flagged me down and said, come sit with us, because they didn't know anybody either. Everybody else kind of knew each other, but I was kind of, I didn't, he had met her at a different restaurant. I didn't know the employees. I didn't know any of them. So it was really like just a foreign group of people that I didn't know. So I went and sat with his mom had died early on, but his dad and his brother and his brother's wife. And we had a grand old time. Just, talking and speculating about, if this is going to last or not. I don't mean to make light of it, but it just seemed so bizarre. It was too fast, and they were vastly different people. Now I ran into him like a year later, and they'd already had a little girl, which was really cool, and it was really good to see him. And then a year later, they were divorced. A year or two later, maybe. I was so sad to hear that. But there's so many stories about him. So we ended up rekindling. Once he got married, he just went a different direction, as did I. I didn't see him much. But just like a year, 2 years ago, was it right before my dad? Or no? How did that work? I think I heard from him via LinkedIn that one of his friends had read my dad's obituary and reached out to Steve and said, "Did you know Nancy's dad passed away?" And he's like, "No, I didn't. Thanks for telling me." And then Steve reached out to me, and we reconnected again. And went to a couple of baseball games together, and it was like nothing had ever changed. I mean, we were exactly the same couple. We weren't together, but we were. Our patter, our all old habits die hard. We were exactly the same people we were early on in our relationship, and it was really fun to rekindle that relationship, and I'm so glad we did. And then he ups and moves to the East Coast. That's a whole other story. But we remain in contact to this very day. I was really glad to have rekindled that friendship. But so that's probably my Two of Cups right there. Isn't that funny when you think about stuff like that? Oh my God, it's been so long. Okay, I think that's story time for today. Thanks so much for coming by. As always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all of my subscribers. I'm just thrilled that you're hitting that button. It just makes me feel good that you're joining me on this walk, on this wander through the history of my life. So thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow on day 4. Is that right? Today's day 3? Tomorrow's day 4. Okay, Star and Flurry out. Okay.